must have the ability always to defend itself by itself against any threat. And that when it comes to Israel's security, Israel has the right, the sovereign right, to make its own decisions.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meeting at the White House with President Obama today. This coming after President Obama addressed an American Jewish interest group, AIPAC, over the weekend.
But as you examine my commitment, you don't just have to count on my words. You can look at my deeds. Because over the last 3 years as President of the United States, I have kept my commitments to the State of Israel. At every crucial juncture, at every fork in the road, we have been there for Israel every single time.
So let's bring in our panel. From Washington, Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard, A.B. Stoddard, associate editor of The Hill, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Steve, your thoughts on this meeting and the speech over the weekend?
Well, pretty big meeting. It doesn't really get any more dramatic and important than this. Probably President Obama's most significant bilateral meeting of his presidency. I think the White House went in, I think, trying to convince Prime Minister Netanyahu of two things: that we will know if Iran races forward with its breakout capacity and really tries to assemble and construct a nuclear weapon, and that we will actually take action if this in fact happens. I think this is a tough sell. For one thing, the United States doesn't have a great track record on weapons of mass destruction, and our window into the Iranian program, if we have one at all, doesn't seem to be that great. And secondly, he's basically asking Netanyahu to trust the United States, to trust the president, that if in fact we do have this information, that will go. It's asking for a huge risk. I think it's unlikely that the Prime Minister will take him up on it.
A.B.?
Well, it's, I think that between the speech at AIPAC and between the comments that Prime Minister Netanyahu made today and President Obama made today, this was sort of the public declaration of what they've been saying in private. I think the Israelis are going to go their own way. I think they've made it clear, and I think that President Obama made it clear that we will give them, backup in the case of a counterattack. But they still disagree. I mean, they disagree on the regime's intentions, and they also disagree on the timing. I mean, I think the Israelis really believe that time is running out, and President Obama continues to ask for more time. And unless he can assure them privately that he can do enough covertly, they're going to go on their own schedule.
Charles, your sense about this meeting at the Oval Office today, the last meeting these two leaders had, we could read a lot into the demeanor, the tone, and the backstory. Any thoughts about the meeting and the words said?
Judging from the demeanor and the tone and from the inadequacy of the president's words the day before, I would imagine the meeting is extremely tense. Netanyahu keeps stressing that he, as prime minister, he is responsible for the safety of a whole nation, and he's not going to defer when Israel is facing an enemy sworn to its destruction. When Obama spoke, we saw earlier that soundbite about we were going to pursue diplomacy. You have to ask yourself, what diplomacy? There is no diplomacy with Iran on their nukes. Obama tried this. He admitted he was rebuffed. Right now, the Iranians are indicating they might be open to reopen negotiations, clearly as a way to stall until the window of opportunity is shut on the Israelis. Obama says, yes, we're going to try sanctions. We know sanctions are having an economic effect, but when all of his intelligence agency chiefs were before Congress last month, they were asked, have any of the sanctions influenced the nuclear program? The answer was a flat no. So what's left? A promise on the military option. And Obama says, trust me. And the Israelis have to trust their entire existence on that, which is why I think the real question in the discussions between Obama and Netanyahu is going to be, can the Israelis strike? They will strike on their own, I think, unless they're given a hardcore assurance from the White House that Obama would strike if diplomacy doesn't succeed. And I'm not sure Obama's going to offer that. In the absence of that, I think the Israelis will declare and use the president's words, Israel has the sovereign right to do what it needs to defend itself. And I think Israel would
Steve,
act
there is a
unilaterally.
sense, Excuse me, Charles. Steve, there is a sense that there is a growing sense that the Israelis are getting to that point, and that this meeting was kind of the cap on the iceberg, that this is sort of happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sense is right. I mean, we've seen this in this sort of volley of rhetoric over the past 2 months, the Israelis making the case, I think, both in public and then more strenuously in private, about the need to do this, and as Charles says, the fact that Iran is an existential threat. And we've seen from the administration this counter-argument in public that I think in some ways has been very damaging. I mean, you had Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, suggesting that this was a bad idea in an interview 3 weeks ago. You've had sort of a constant repetition from administration figures down-talking this, and in a sense telegraphing what they are trying to do. I just think if you were serious about the conundrum that Israel's in, if you really wanted to help them solve the problem, and if you did in fact believe that diplomacy was still an option at this very late date, you would be making precisely the opposite points, and we just haven't heard that much from this administration.
AB, I have 20 seconds here. All of the candidates on the campaign trail have weighed in on this issue. Plays politically on the Republican side. Briefly.
Well, it's great for the Republicans is to beat up on President Obama about what he has not done to contain Iran and what he's not done to stop progress on them obtaining a nuclear weapon. But obviously, should there be a conflict, that'll be a harder debate for Republicans to take to the president.
Panel, thank you very much.